Thank you. All right, sorry, welcome again. So we do a lot of trainings for faculty using Canvas, and this one is sort of tailored to what a TA might do. So, jump in, let us know if there's anything really particular that you're wanting to learn more about. We might cover it during our time together. We might sit down with you right afterwards for a few minutes too. But I am Sarah North. I'm a senior instructional designer with the Office of Digital Education. You might also know us as CU Online. That's kind of like our frontward facing brand. And this is Braden Lewis, a senior
instructional consultant.
there you go. And then you might have also seen Nicole too. She's our training coordinator. So um, like Braden already said, get up, grab food, use restrooms, do whatever. We have some water out here too. So we are, it's gonna work. There we go. So today we're going to try and make our way through what you guys are probably going to cover as a TA or instructor. Let's get to know each other actually a little bit first. How many of you are TAs with like you have a leading faculty that you're working with or reporting to? Okay. And then how many of you are like the primary instructor in the course? Okay. Are most of you teaching face-to-face, hybrid, online? Okay. Sounds like a lot of face-to-face. I think you may have seen our little survey we sent out before too. And then, what was my other question I was going to ask you? But I'm assuming the reason you're here though is for all of these reasons, that you are probably doing some of these, grading, maybe creating some content, working with the gradebook, assignments, discussions, anything like that. So looking at this list here, assignments, discussions, gradebook, SpeedGrader, quizzes, communication practices within Canvas, creating content, web conferences, multimedia, anything else that you guys know of specifically that you might be working on this semester? Anything else? Okay, cool. Well, if you think of something as we go along, then just let us know. We can try and cover it as well. So this is kind of what we're going to try and make our way through today. And I think we'll get through everything. Yeah, we'll jump in and get going. So, look, that's not where I want to go. We're going to jump right into Canvas. There we are. So have all of you been in Canvas at some point, even as just as a student? Has anyone not? Like this is your very first time ever seeing the LMS? Okay, so we're all familiar with how to get into Canvas, and you'll find your course in your dashboard and everything. So I'm going to start with just going over assignments and discussions. As a student, you've probably seen those from the student-facing side. So I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side in modules. And this probably looks somewhat familiar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start assignment here in my module section. So I'm going to start that under, I'll start it under my first module up here. So what will be new to you are these options over here on the right-hand side. There's a plus button. And if I click on that, I'm going to have options to add something to my module. And this is adding it to my module. It's also just adding it in my course in general. So this is sort of, there's two ways to go about this, but this is going to place it in my module as well as adding the assignment itself. So I'm going to start with a brand new assignment. If you had already created it, you have a list here that you could choose from. I'm going to start a brand new assignment, and then I'm going to give it a name. Okay, I'm going to add my item to this module. One thing you might notice is my other items here are green. They have green icons. This one is grayed out. That means it's not published yet. When you are ready to publish something, you have the option over on the right-hand side to publish or unpublish these items. So I'm going to go into my assignment. I'll click on that. This is sort of, may look familiar. This is kind of student-facing side, what the students are going to see. And I'm going to click on Edit. That's on the top right-hand side. This is where you could also publish it as well. But I'm going to click on Edit. And one thing to notice, so here, the very first thing, and you're going to see this a lot now in Canvas, is this rich content editor. And so this is where I'm going to put my instructions for the assignment. So I'm going to type anything here, and there's a lot of different tools you can play with around here, images, videos, all sorts of things. So this is where my assignment instructions would go. And you can attach files in here, all sorts of stuff. But what we want to look at is a little bit farther down, and this is where we're going to kind of set all the parameters for our assignment. So I'm going to give it point value. We'll say 100 points for this assignment. You might have different assignment groups that you can set up. That's done when you want to set up other parameters. The left-hand side is where you're going to go for that, and we'll kind of look at that in a minute. You can have assignment groups. This assignment can be just a complete or incomplete. We can grade it just based on percentage. Typically, you're going to do points. You have some other options here. I'm going to kind of jump through some of them. So submission type, this is sort of important to think about. So if you're a TA in the face-to-face class, and students are still going to submit their assignment online in Canvas, then we want to make this an online submission. If students are going to physically hand you the paper in class, but you're going to put the grade in Canvas, then we'll do an on-paper assignment. So I'm going to do an online submission because that gives me some other options here too. Students can submit the assignment with just a text entry box. They can, maybe it's a real short. Let's see, you can submit a media recording. File uploads is, submitting a Word doc, PDF, something like that. And then something to watch or to look for as well is the option to restrict the file types. I don't know if you've experienced this. I have in the past where students have submitted a file and it's one that I can't open. I don't have that program on my computer, something a little bit off or unusual. So you can restrict the file upload types, and you can, basically what you can do is just tell it what extensions you will accept. And it will restrict students to submitting something only with those extensions. So I might choose one that has, if it's a paper, I might do the DOC, DOCX, or a PDF. If you want to use Turnitin, so Turnitin, the kind of plagiarism checker, that's already enabled in all courses, and all you need to do within your assignment is turn it on. So you would just check this box right here, enable Turnitin submissions. And there's advanced options that you'll have too. And you can kind of look through these too on your own if it's something you'd like to do. Things that you would like to compare it against and also would like to exclude or include when it's looking at the plagiarism. So we also have the option to make this a group assignment. We can go over, I'll kind of go over a little later maybe of how to set up groups if people are interested in actually how they're set up. But if I want to make this a group assignment, I would check this box and it'll give me even more options. So one thing to think about with a group assignment, are you grading each group as a group? Everyone in the group gets the single grade. Or they're in groups, but each student gets their own grade. So that's the decision that you'll make here, assign grades to each student individually. If I leave it unchecked, it'll be kind of a one group thing. The thing to know about that too, if we're assigning one grade to the whole group, you only need to grade one student in that group, and then it'll automatically give that same grade to all the other students. So it does make it a little easier if you're maybe TAing for a course that's like a couple hundred people or something, and you have groups or something. Makes it a little easier. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about Turnitin?
Yeah.
Is the process Word file? Is that correct? Process PDFs as well?
I think my understanding that processes PDFs, and I think I even have an example in here that it does PDFs and Word docs.
And the second
I don't know about other ones though.
If given students a series of questions for answering, what happens with those questions? Because essentially those questions are written by the professor and they'll be come up plagiarized, or what it kind of.
Are these like essay questions?
Short answer questions, essay questions.
So so Turnitin is looking at, of course, things that have been published, like out, in different databases like that in the world, but it's also looking at potentially other assignments that have been submitted before. So in previous classes that this instructor has taught, perhaps it would sort of match all those if that has been used before, if Turnitin has been used before. Your situation almost sounds like it might be better to use a quiz with some short answer options rather than an assignment with a paper turned in. Maybe, I don't know. We could talk later. It sounds like that might be a good option though. Or if you're concerned about those questions, then you can turn it off. You can, when you see the Turnitin score, and I'll show you one that's been scored, you can go in and see exactly what it's finding. Yeah. And so you might, if you have ones that are flagged, you could go in there and then see, oh, it's all of the actual questions that are being flagged and not the answers. And so that might be something. Do you have a lot of students in the course? Okay, so that might be a lot to go through, but
Can you just repeat the question? Just
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. She was asking about Turnitin and if questions that the instructor has written and the students are repasting those questions, if those would be flagged by Turnitin. So I'm going to uncheck this right now and not call it a group assignment. Peer reviews, that's when students are going to review each other's papers, perhaps. A whole different animal. So you absolutely can make this a peer reviewed assignment, and there's a lot of details that go into that of how to set it up. And so if that's something you're really interested in, just grab one of us afterwards and we can go through that. So at the very end here, this is where we have our dates. So I'm going to point out, first of all, our due date. So this is just your due date for the assignment. So we'll pick a date. Assign it to. So it's going to default, it's going to assign it to every student in this class. You can start to get a little bit nuanced in this and assign it to a certain group, a certain section. So especially if you have a course that is like cross-listed between like a 4,000 and 5,000 level class, you might have an assignment just for the 5,000 level students and you could choose them here. Available from and available until. Available from is the date which students can see the assignment itself. If you have it published, so my assignment is published, but I don't have this available date until later on, students will not be able to see that assignment until you choose that date. These dates are not required at all. So you can just strictly use that due date. The until date then on the flip side, kind of on the back end, is going to be the students can view and see and submit into this assignment until this date. So let's say my due date is February 28th, I'm going to make my until date until, let's say, March 13th. Between these windows, students can still submit assignments between that February 28th and March 13th. It will mark it as late, so you'll know that it's late and how many days it's late. Once that March 13th date hits, you can't see the assignment or submit to it anymore. I might have that wrong. You can maybe see it, but you can't submit to it anymore if I have this link. So again, you don't have to use this date. It's just one of the options that's available to you depending on your situation and what the needs are for that assignment. So last thing, let's say you're working with a student who maybe has a medical issue or something where they need some extra time and it's excused and their assignment shouldn't be counted late. This little add button here at the bottom, we can add a different due date for a particular student. So I'm going to choose, let's see, Kate Miller is one of the students in this class, and she has an excused, like kind of late assignment, I guess. And so I'm just going to give her a different due date. And so when she submits her paper, it will not be counted late until after this date that I've specifically given her. So let me move this little bar here. So I'm going to always remember to save. That's the button down here at the bottom. And you can see kind of how this ended up looking on the details for the students, where the points, how they can submit things, that Turnitin has been enabled and it notifies them of that, and then what the due date is. Students will only see their own due date. So you as the teacher are gonna see I have a couple different due dates here for people, but the student will only see, I think, their own. So let's go, before we get into like grading our endings. You can add discussions again the same way that I added the assignment. You can also go into this discussions tab here and add one. I'm going to go into just one that's already been created. You know what? I'm not going to do that. That one's a group one. Let's start from the scratch. So I'm going to go discussions here again on the left-hand side. On the top right-hand side, I'm going to add a discussion. Again, this is that other way of adding your assignment or discussion. You can do it through these items on the left-hand side and then click add discussion or add assignment, or you can do it in the module like I did the very first time. Sorry if that's confusing. So here I'm going to add a brand new discussion, and I have my title. I also have my rich content editor here again, so putting in the description for your discussion. And then I have these some options that are going to start to look a little bit familiar. So, and then some that are new. So I can assign this to different sections if I would like. I can make attachments. Here are some options that are new. Allow threaded replies. Have you been in a discussion where, and this is how most of them are set up, things are more like nested, the replies to everyone else's are nested? That's the threaded replies. It's gonna kind of align those with that original point that people are replying to. Otherwise, it sort of just like stacks everything, which it's just, again, just dependent on the situation. If you don't really need all of that, if you don't want to track the replies and the threads, then you can kind of go either way. I like the threaded replies. It makes it easier to see. You have the option, users must post before seeing replies. That's an option that no one can see anything in the discussion until they post their own. There is, it's appealing in some cases to do this. I will caution, however, it's not perfect, because a student can post, like just write in, type in a few random letters, put post, and then go back and delete their own reply. And that has now given them access to the discussion board. So it's imperfect, but it's an option for you. I've never enabled podcast feeds. I don't really know exactly what it does. It's something a little bit off topic. So making this a graded discussion. So again, we have these options that pop up again here that are familiar. This is a 25-point discussion. Groups, again, this is a lot of times likely in those larger classes too, you'll have smaller group discussions. And so this is maybe a group discussion, and then I can pick which group is assigned to this particular, well, I shouldn't say that. It's a group discussion. There are group sets, which is like, let's say, oh, I don't know, discussion 1 groups. And then within that is all of my 10 different groups. let's say. So I'm choosing like the group set right now. Each group then has their own access to their own discussion. They can't see the other ones. It's a little bit complicated to explain without like seeing all of it. But we can go through it later if you want to look at the group discussions more. I've never done peer reviews on a discussion. I think it's a little bit odd. It would probably be more in a paper sense. So the discussions, we don't usually do that. We can have the same options then here with our due dates. We can assign and give extensions to individuals. So we'll pick a due date here. Let's see, so that's for our discussions. And then let's go ahead and look at maybe how we would then go about grading some of these things. So we've made our assignments, we've made our discussions. Let's go ahead and jump into grading. So the grades tab on the left-hand side here, as a student, you know this, and it shows your own grades. When you click on it as a teacher, it's going to give me the grade book. So on the left-hand side here, I have a list of all of my students. This is all of my 2 students, and then you'll always see a test student in here. And then across the rows here are all of our assignments. So in the grade book here, we have some different options. You can absolutely just click in a box and assign a grade to that student. So that's one way of doing that. The other way would be SpeedGrader, which we're gonna look at in just a minute. I'm gonna show you some of the cool things in here first. So if I'm on an assignment, let me back up and slow down a bit. So here I'm gonna grade this assignment. So I'm in this column right here. There are 3 dots on the side here. And I have some options here. I have some options to sort the students so I can sort of have a different view. You can play around with curving grades. Hiding grades is one thing I use a lot. So I'm going to choose to hide my grades because I want them all hidden from students until I'm done grading. Just so maybe they're not, you know, I got my grade, did you get yours? Or, you know, confusion like that. But also I might go back if I start to see something that's really popping up, I might go back and adjust some grades if I want to do that as I'm going on. So I'm going to hide my grades. So it's going to tell you about what that means to hide your grades, and that students will be able to see that the grades are hidden, and that you can send notifications when you post your grades. I'm going to go ahead and hide those. This little kind of like eyeball with a cross through it shows up here. The other thing with hiding your grades is you can also go to this grade posting policy. So this gives you sort of a further option for hiding your grades. When I want to post my grades, I can post them automatically, meaning the grades, even though they're, so it's confusing. They kind of redid this in the past year and it's all very confusing still. So automatic grades posting will be visible to students as soon as they're entered, given that you've already unhidden the grades. What I use though, manual posting of grades. So basically, so I have my grades hidden. I'm going through and I'm grading and I think, you know what, I think I'm good. I want to release these, you know, 10 papers that I've graded today. I'll go ahead and post the grades, but because I'm on manual option here, I have the option then that I can only post grades for those who have been graded. Does that make sense? Like only those have been graded will see them. And then people who have not been graded will still look like to them that the grades are hidden. So it's tricky, but just kind of whatever your preference is when you're going through your grading. And I'll show you how we kind of go through that when we start grading things.
So to kind of jump in and help clarify, Canvas automatically wants to notify the students of everything that happens in the course.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm sure as students you've seen it before, whenever a faculty member gives you a grade, gives you feedback, gives you anything that has to do it, it sends you a notification. Now you have the ability as students to change that notification, but you'll have some people that will get a text message, their app will go off, get an email, or maybe they're getting a weekly email saying, here's all the things that have happened. So what this is doing is it's overriding those notifications and allowing you to control what's sent to your students and when. And so what can get really hard is if you're grading something, providing feedback, students are automatically going to get that notification. But what if your faculty member wants to then maybe change the grade or provide some additional feedback? So the student might be confused if I got this one grade, then all of a sudden I got this other grade. What's the real deal? And so that's where this feature comes in handy of where you can hide grades and turn off the notifications so that when the faculty member and you are ready for them to receive it, they get them once, not multiple times. Because you could have someone say, hey, you have a grade. The rubric's been filled out. There's been a note placed on it. And so they're going to get 1, 2, 3 notifications, where instead you're getting just the one.
Yeah, that's a good reason for adjusting the grade posting policy too. So one more thing to look at in the gradebook, this is one of my other favorite features of it, is message students who. So I'm going to click on that, and I have the option to send messages to students in a certain situation. So I could send a message to students that I haven't graded yet. I also have the option to send messages to the students who scored less than a certain amount or scored more than a certain amount. So I'm going to, and students, this will be a large group of students. Well, it doesn't have to be, it might be like 2 or something, but the point is they won't see each other. So you're sending a message to multiple students potentially, but they're not going to see this message. It's not like a group email. It's like they're getting an individual message from you. And all of your students in that category will show up here, and then you can take out certain ones as well. So you can change the subject of your message, and then also what you're going to write in your message here to the student. It's sending a message. When it does this, it's sending the message through the Canvas inbox. Has everyone like received or sent messages in the Canvas inbox? Okay. We'll go over that when we go through the communication practices, but it's kind of like a light version of email, but that's where that message is being sent through. And so if a student replies to that message, you'll find it right here in your inbox. So those are the things that you get to do with the gradebook, and also you'll see it in the SpeedGrader tool that we look at. When I want to post grades, let's go ahead and look at that then. So this is where that option shows up. I can post it to everyone, just everybody, no matter what, or I can post it to those that have been graded. And like Braden said, that triggers that notification that those students who have something graded will receive the notification that they have a grade. So let's go ahead and jump into SpeedGrader. So a couple of different ways to go to SpeedGrader. To get back to your assignments or to get back to your navigation, on the very top left-hand side are these 3 little lines that'll show your course navigation again, and you can get back to any of these areas. You can also just click on these assignments too. So I'm going to go into this assignment here on the gradebook I was looking at. I'm just going to click on the title of it. It's going to take me back to that assignment. I'm going to go ahead and jump into SpeedGrader. So that's on the top right-hand side. This is SpeedGrader, so you can click on it there. and it will open up a new tab. And sort of just to give you a lay of the land here, let's see, sort of at the very top bar, navigation bar, to get back to your course and back to the grade book, it's the very top right-hand little icon here. This next, that kind of icon of an eye, that's showing you again the hide or post grades option. So you can hide it while you're in here in SpeedGrader. You can post them while you're in here in SpeedGrader. And then I think some different options here for SpeedGrader. You have the assignment when it was due. You can again go back to that assignment by clicking on that as well. This main page here, this big open space, is where the student's assignment is going to show up. And I may, let's see, I'm probably going to go back to an assignment here in a minute and show you what we can do. On the very, let's see, moving over to the right-hand side, the top right, it's showing me how many I've graded so far, what the average is. And then this drop down, this is a list of all of the students in my class. And a green check mark means that I've graded it. An orange dot means that I have not graded it yet. When a student is grayed out like this, it means they haven't submitted anything yet. Just for the sake of, I want to be able to show you more within SpeedGrader. I'm going to jump into a different assignment. So I'm going to go back into my assignments. I'm going to go into a new one. Okay, here we are back in SpeedGrader. So the students up here on the top right-hand side again, you can kind of go through just by clicking on them in the drop-down. You can also go through one after the other just using those arrows. So I'm going to go to Alex here. He has this paper submitted. So you'll see papers, if a student submits a video, PowerPoints, an Excel doc, it'll show up here. You have a couple options now for giving some kind of annotated feedback within the document. So up here on this gray toolbar, we have some different options. We can like put a little, almost like a little marker somewhere. And then when I do that, then I have the option to leave a comment about what I'm flagging here. And then I have the option to highlight. And you can see the colors up here in the top left. You can change the colors of these. I can add a comment to that highlight as well if I wanted to. If you noticed on any of these elements, there's a little trash can that also pops up kind of on the left-hand side of it, and I can go ahead and delete that. I can add in some other text and then, you know, maybe make it red or something. I can strike through and cross out different things. This is a free-handed tool if you have a steady hand, and then we can draw boxes around things. So a lot of these, so all these are kind of intended to replace kind of the hand, you know, kind of turn in your paper, do the handwriting and everything. You should be able to do that fairly easily in SpeedGrader and still have this all online and not have to worry about paper hard copies and everything. On the right-hand side, then, in this area here, is all the information for you about this assignment. So you can see the timestamp when it was submitted. Let's see. I have the files that were submitted. I can go ahead and download this. It's not going to download with the annotations. So this would be if you wanted to download it and maybe work on it somewhere else on your computer or print it out or something. this little green area right here, it says 6%, that's my Turnitin score. So students can see their score and you can see your score or see their score. Actually, depending on how you set up your settings, students may or may not be able to see it. You always have this in your view here. And so when I click on that, it takes me out of Canvas into Turnitin, and then I can see what's going on here. So over on the right-hand side is kind of the match overview. And this is where you would be able to see if that student had pasted, maybe they pasted those assignment instructions or just pasted something else that the instructor had written. And so that's where you'd be able to see it. So you can see when you drill down where these, it's highlighting what has been matched and where it's coming from. Again, it's not a perfect process by all means. These have to be things that are in the Turnitin repository, and you kind of have to use your settings correctly, that you don't want to match up, say, bibliographies and things like that. But this is where you would be able to see all of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and close on out of here. Now I have the box here to give a grade to the student. And then you can see on each student too. So it says it's hidden. I can see that because what I've done in my little kind of eye icon up there, but I can also see on here in SpeedGrader that this is indeed hidden. I can add some comments here, some overall comments for the student. I can, that would not be a very substantial comment, but you can attach something if you want to attach another file. You can also record video feedback, and you can also do speech recognition too. The speech recognition works just a lot like your text. It's not going to capitalize a lot of things, or you might have to put in some punctuation. But those are some different options for feedback. And I'll make sure you go ahead and hit submit in that gold button. And you also have the option to delete your comment too. So now this student, I've given him annotated feedback, given him overall feedback, graded. On to the next one. It would be the very top right-hand side. We'll just kind of move on to the next student. Yeah.
If you do something like that, if it's like the grades are still hidden, but you submit a comment, will the comment be hidden too?
Yes. Yeah. So the question is, yeah, would the comment still be hidden along with the grade? And it will be. So all of that together is hidden. And that's basically it in SpeedGrader. You can, again, unhide and post grades from here with this little eye thing. I can go ahead and post the grades. If I do graded, students who received a grade, then they'll be posted, and I can go ahead and post. And there we go. Yes.
So if you write a comment and then you post the grade later, are they going to get a notification that the comment's there?
So the question about will they get a notification if you make a comment later after you've graded it? It depends on how. Oh, before you post the grade.
Or will that just be like the grades posted?
They will see the comment. You have to unpost, or you have to unhide it and post it. So yes, so I think I know what you're talking about. So I've done that. Say for instance, the student, like I want to give them like a revision option or something. So I write the comment right there. You know, this, I haven't graded it yet. Write the comment in here, you know, revisions needed. And then I'll go ahead and submit that comment. And then, yes, you would need, so when you post the grades, then that student then gets that notification that they have something there. Is that the situation? So it's like what you were talking about?
I'm just like worried about students not knowing that comments are there.
Yeah, exactly. So all of this goes back to notifications and how students have set up their notifications within Canvas. What if they're getting an email notification, when are they getting it, how are they getting it, to what email. So I'm going to go over that right after, well, I might just switch this around. I'll go over the communication stuff in just a minute, and we'll look at the notifications. And a good practice for you and your students too is to let them know about that notification section, and make sure you turn on your notifications for, assignment grades and, messages from Canvas or announcements or things like that. And so that they know to expect that from you, and but we'll walk through the notifications too. Yeah.
So for the highlight part for the students do that.
Yep. Yes. So the students will.
After post break.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so hard to show without like real students. It from within your grades. Okay, that's what I thought. So you'll go to your grades and you'll be able to see that there's comments from the instructor, a grade, if there's a rubric that's been used. And then, students will be able to see then that document with these annotations in it.
So to provide some clarification, what happens is students should be getting a notification by default to either their app or to their email. When they log on to the course on the dashboard, there'll be a notification saying, hey, you have a new grade. So we're getting it multiple ways. Now, does that mean a student is clicking on it and viewing it? No. And so that's where we want to send out a separate communication saying, hey, we just posted the grades. Please make sure you review the comments that we've led. And if you have any questions, let us know. Because you still might have students that go, well, I didn't see it. It's in Canvas. They just didn't click on it. Or they turned off their notifications. Mm-hmm. And so that's just where having the extra communication just helps them say, yes, I got it. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see if they've opened it?
It doesn't show you that.
You have so this up here on the top right hand side. So this was I use the same thing for the training over and over. So Alex here, my test student, has gone in and viewed this document of April 4th of last year, but I don't know if that's really saying that they viewed exactly what you've done.
All that's doing is showing that, hey, they opened up this document. However, what's interesting is, so scroll over the note that I made right there. Students have the ability to reply back, as well as they have the reply back to the overall comments, which will send you a notification saying you have a student that has replied back to your comment. And so they can see it, reply back to it, and then you can kind of have a communication that's just between you and them. That doesn't say when necessarily. It might show you this right here. Here it might show you a time code, but it's not a guarantee saying, yes, they've acknowledged and read it.
Yes.
Sorry, I think I missed this. You said when you download this document, it does or does not have the comments and edits?
So as a teacher or a student, are you thinking when a teacher downloads it or when a student downloads it? Both. So the student finds this document with the annotations in their grades area. So
to repeat what was asked, they asked, how does a student or a faculty member download the annotations to review over? And the great thing is all of it can be done within SpeedGrader from the student view and on the faculty view by handy dandy icon. You want to go back? Just go back to SpeedGrader.
Go back to SpeedGrader?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so whether you're on the student view or the faculty view, on that top corner, right over there, see that download icon? That allows the student and the faculty member to download the annotations to their computer. That doesn't mean they can re-annotate and re-upload it and be read, but they can download it and do it.
So that downloaded it, and then it's just as this may have been a PDF initially. So it has.
So it doesn't become compatible with Microsoft Word?
Yes, it won't do track changes.
Right. From the student side of things, when a student is maybe looking at their grades and this is the other way. So this may look familiar to you from a student perspective, right? And what your grades look like. So you'll see there starts to pop up more icons here for students to see. And this one, let's see. Oh, so here's a little notification. Instructor is working on grades. Good to know. So, no, that's the Turnitin score, sorry. The icons are here like for rubrics and comments and things, and I'm not actually seeing it here right now.
I mean, that basically answered my question.
Okay.
You could then, the student could then put it into Word.
Yes. Okay.
And use ChatGPT.
Good. Okay. Maybe this is a good time to go into like our communications side of things too, kind of what things are going to look like, this communication back and forth with students, not just messages and things, but with those comments. So I'm going to leave, go back to kind of our teacher view here. So clicking on these 3 lines to get back to our navigation. Let's talk about our inbox for just a minute. So the Canvas inbox, as a student, you may have used this, and it is sort of like email light a little bit. It's not saving your emails as you go, unfortunately, as you're writing them. It's not saving it as you're typing. So if it's super long, I suggest writing it somewhere else. Maybe in a Google Doc that is sort of automatically saving it and then pasting in here. I've been burned just by my own stupidity by not doing that exact thing. So you can lose stuff. It won't automatically save it. And then you also don't have a lot of the options like bolding, italicizing, hyperlinking, things like that just won't show up. But what I wanted to show you, so of course, these are all my messages over here. This little drop down that says inbox right now, this is a really good place to periodically check. You should get a notification that a student has replied to your assignment comment, but you may not see it. I know I've missed it. As an instructor. So in my inbox, what I'll usually do periodically, maybe once a day, is just try and go in here and look at the submission comments, and that will filter out inbox messages, and it will filter out then these assignment comments. And you can also, if you're in a lot of courses or TAing for a couple courses, you can filter out where those, for those, show what courses those messages are coming from. So that is one way to see those submission comments if you're worried about missing them, is they will show up here in your inbox. Another thing about communication then is going back to, actually, let's talk about notifications for a minute, which you guys may have seen then as students, and then sort of just looking through them again from the eyes of, okay, what do I want my students to make sure I get a notification from if you're going to be doing announcements, if you know that that's kind of a primary way of communicating information out to students, you just want to let them know, like, make sure you set up your notifications so you can see those from me. And you do that through your account. You click on your account button here on the top left and click on notifications. And then this is where you can change all sorts of things. So you can have options to get a notification right away, a daily summary, a weekly summary, or not anything at all. This is kind of where you get tripped up when students are saying, maybe for, I don't know, let's see, grades or, grading right here, I'm going to get a weekly summary. They might not see that comment right away that you post in their submission there in SpeedGrader.
Or more importantly, they're having everything go to their UC Denver email address that they never actually read.
Yeah, that's another thing too. So you can see, it automatically, notifications are set up to go to your CU Denver email address. You can add another one, though. You see I've added my Gmail as well, and so you can set up when you want to receive those. So just a way to maybe, if you're working with some students who are having a little bit trouble just seeing stuff from you and the instructor, just a way to kind of walk them through some different ways of making sure that they're getting the notifications and the communication that they need. Yeah.
It's the same for TA as well. So the whole.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, the notifications area should look very similar, I think, for students and instructors.
And so their question is, how does this view look for TAs? It actually looks the same for all users. What's different is if you're in a teacher mode, the notifications you're going to get will be different. And so you will, instead of getting the due dates, you'll be getting notifications saying assignment has been posted and it needs to be graded. And so that's where those options down below look differently, where students are never going to grade a paper because they're never going to be a teacher for a course, whereas as a TA, you're in that position.
And any other questions about that part? Yeah.
I have a question. It might not be related to this, but does it notify, like, if you're working for a professor, does it notify the professor when you make changes to Canvas, like when you add assignments or submit comments?
Yeah. So the question is whether or not instructors are getting notified. So they set up their own. So they have that kind of exact same notification view. It's how they have set up their own notifications as well. It kind of, it's all individual. So even though you are the TA for that instructor, they have set up their own preferences as to when and how they want to get notified.
But it's possible for them to get notified.
I would still encourage that you also tell them, either through email or however you want to do it, just so that nothing gets mixed, just for your personal protection. Say, hey, finished all the grading. Because, you know, faculty sometimes have multiple courses and they're not always checking the notifications, or they get a summary.
Yeah. So back in our course, the other, key communication tool is announcements. So when you click on announcements in that left-hand column again for our course, this is where we would add a new announcement. Top right-hand side, so this is it's just kind of the setup for all these different things. I want to add something new assignment, new discussion, new announcement. Top right-hand corner with the gold button here. And so I have the title of my announcement. I have the content here. Again, I can do all sorts of things and attach files, post videos. You have the options down here. I really like this option, especially just kind of this delayed posting option. So down here at the bottom, if you want to just get through this announcement real quick, I know I wanted to do this on Monday, but I have a moment right now. I'm going to do it right now. Then I can delay my posting until maybe the following week. You can allow users to comment on the announcements. I recommend doing that only if you're really going to be checking the announcements. So there are so many, as we've discussed already, there's so many different ways for students to communicate with you through Canvas, inbox, comments, all these different ways. And unless this is a place that you're going to be checking back specifically for those comments, I recommend leaving it unchecked just so you don't miss anything. We try and limit just a little bit how we know the avenues they're going to be contacting us through. So you might want to leave that unchecked. And just some other silly fun options here. You can like an assignment or like an announcement for fun, I guess.
One of the things that was blocked that you couldn't see online is when you actually select the delay posting, the date, you can also select the time. So if you want it to be sent off at 8 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever, you can actually go in there and say, I don't know why I picked mornings. You can actually say, I want this announcement sent at 3:35 p.m. and it'll go.
Yeah, sorry, let me move this little thing. So yeah, that's a really handy little tool to kind of manage. And
this is also one of those things to where once an announcement is sent, it sends a notification to them saying, hey, you have a new announcement. Then if they look on the dashboard, there'll also be another flag that'll show up on the course saying you have unread announcements.
One other cool thing with announcements that I'm going to point out that I didn't know about until this past semester, and I found it really helpful. In your left-hand side here, navigation, and now as a TA in this course, you're going to be able to see the settings. And I think TAs can do this. So if you go all the way to the bottom in your settings tab here, and I'm going to, sorry, people online, I'm moving some things around on here. So at the very, very bottom, there's a tiny little text that says more options. I'm going to click on that. I know this is super intuitive. So more options. And there's the option show recent announcements on the course homepage. I have loved this. So when students who may have their notifications not set up properly, they're not seeing them, they're not getting the email, you can put this on here and maybe have the top, the most 2 or 3 recent announcements show up on the course homepage. So then when I need to make sure and update my course details, and when I make an announcement then, I should have saved that one before. Let me do this real quick.
It's also important to remember, always hit the save button before you move to the next page. Sometimes it'll warn you, are you sure you want to leave this page? Sometimes it doesn't warn you. So you want to make sure you always hit save, because I've done that. I've forgotten to do that a couple times.
So I made my announcement. Now on the home page, my most recent announcements are going to pop up on the top there. And that is just another way to, like, okay, if you haven't seen it anywhere else, maybe you'll see it when you first enter the course, which automatically goes to the home page, and then hopefully they'll see it, these couple of announcements up here that are automatically popping up. So just another setting for trying to get, notifications out to students. Any other questions about communication with students? Yeah.
Well, I have a question about the assign section. You want me to wait?
Which section?
The assign section.
Oh, in an assignment?
For assignments.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go into it.
Awesome.
The question is about the
Yeah,
assign to. Okay.
I didn't know that you could add a student with a different due date. That's awesome.
Mhm.
What if the student was in the bulk of the assign? Happens a lot. And they're like, oh, I didn't get to it. So we give them an extension. Is it okay if they were already in like that group above, and you can also add them below and give them a longer extension? You know what I'm saying?
I think so. So what you're saying, so the student so this says everyone, right? So it's all the students. And then you're asking then, can I give them the other?
So say like Kate was assigned to everyone.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, professor, I'm sorry. I didn't get it in on time. And we're like, okay, we're going to make an extension just for you.
Uh-huh.
Can I add her to that add bottom again, even though she's already been assigned at the top?
Yes. And that's exactly what it's for. So you're right. And that's a good clarification. So even though this one says everyone, once I add Kate down here, she's removed from this everyone, and she's given her own. And actually what I just noticed when I did that is this says everyone else now. So now I have Kate's due date, and then I have everyone else's due date. Does that make sense? Okay.
We haven't been able to figure it out, and we just keep opening the whole thing, and then students are going in and changing their answers to stuff. So it's just the best thing with everything. So this is like, oh. Yeah.
So here's what's also important to point off. Anytime a student submits something, it puts the timestamp on it. So the time, the date, and when that was done. So even if you do change change to assign, and maybe you give the entire class an extra day, but you're only meant to get one, you'll see when that was submitted, and you can see the differences in the two. Now, another question that we got online is when you're doing this with groups, it gets a little bit more complicated, because if you have one student that was in group A and they submitted the assignment, and then you move that student to group B and they submitted that assignment again, that student will actually be in 2 groups with 2 different grades. And so it's very important that when you're designing these assignments, that you don't change the groups that someone's in once they submitted something. Because it gets really confusing in the gradebook when you see multiple submissions for the same student, you go, which grade is which? And so that's really comes in play on quizzes, and we'll cover that later. You can go back and retake a quiz once, and it's going to say you got this score. Then you can give them a new due date or extend the time, and they have another time. But you'll see the 2 different scores. And then you can actually choose which score to use, or even override the score with the score that you want. But with groups, it just gets an extra layer of confusion, because you need to make sure they only submit the assignment once. And so that's where you kind of got to be careful of. Here, yeah, we can add a new due date, but we want to make sure we don't change anything else. And if a student's already submitted the assignment and you're putting a new due date, you have to be very careful of which one you're selecting and grading. Because if you grade it twice, it gets really confusing in the gradebook, and now you have 2 grades. You're like, which is the one?
But we'll have that timestamp.
They will be timestamped. Everything turned in.
Like, she did well in the first one, I gave her that second one.
Yes. In this situation, if you ever face it and you're confused, that's when you want to talk to us or support, and they can actually look through and figure out what's going on to walk you through that. Because it can get complicated fast if you're doing multiple due dates, multiple submissions, multiple areas. And so that's why you want to make sure that you only do this lightly. But the good news is you can add each student on here individually, each have a different due date if they submit it once. But if you keep changing it, it gets complicated.
Other questions? It might be a good spot to jump into quizzes really quick. Does anyone need a break? 5-minute break.
Like off. Do you guys see that? It looks like double vision to me. Maybe it's just because I'm too close. I don't know.
Is that? It might.
It's not
Is
as
it
clean.
looking
Yeah.
blurry?
Maybe you're just having so much fun, you're seeing double.
Yes. Double the fun.
Can we, before we get too far, revert how to curve grades?
Do you want to take that one, Braden?
Sure. If you want to drive through me here.
Yeah.
So once a grade is submitted, at any time you can actually go back on there and curve every grade overall. So all you have to do is go into the gradebook, find the assignment that you're looking for, and then on the very top where the assignment is, there's those dots, click on it, and then you have the ability to curve grades. It's important to also say here that you only want to curve the grades once, because otherwise students will be like, whoa, my grade is going up and down, what's going on? But if you want to go on there and say the average score is 30 points, let's bump that up to 40. All you have to do is tap that in there, press enter, and then you can even say, yes, assign zeros to unsubmitted assignments. I'm not going to give you a grade if you don't submit anything. And then when you're done, you just do curve grades, and it'll bump everyone up those 10-point difference. And of course, if someone's already got the highest score, the curve won't affect them.
Can you repeat that? Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go through it, show it one more time, and you just want reverse the action. You can, but that's where I say only do it once. And so that's where, with this, even though as TAs you might be asked to do it, make sure you do what your faculty is wanting you to do here. And so you can go on and let's hit curve. Here's that 30 points. Let's change the curve down to 20. See what happens. And say curve grades.
Do you assign zeros or no?
It doesn't matter.
So it kind of gives you this warning here too, like grade curving cannot be undone. The curving action is irreversible. So we want to curve grades, which is, do I click on the same assignment?
Because there's only one grade, it's not showing it.
Yeah.
And so that's where you say you only want to do it the once. Because basically what you're doing is you're curving the grades up higher, and then you're rewriting it to curve it down, and so the math gets really shady.
Can you export the gradebook at any point into something like that in Excel?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, can you export the gradebook into something like Excel? And the answer is yes. Now, where it gets a little bit more complicated is importing it in there might not always be exact. So if you hit the gear, action, you can have the choice to import and export. Now, when you export it, it's going to be as a CSV file, which can be opened by Excel. And you're going to see a lot of extra columns like how do you want to, all the student information on here, all the assignments. It'll have a whole bunch of meta fields right there that can get a little bit of confusing. So if you remove any of these fields, it might mess up when you re-import it. But if you're just wanting to download it to input and just kind of have it as a guide, you can import and export. If you are planning on importing it back in, it's very important that you leave all the fields the same and just place your grades in so everything aligns perfectly when you import it back into your course. And so that question was how to import and export grades to something like Excel from the gradebook.
So I think we'll jump right into quizzes and go through that really quickly, so we have enough time for some multimedia stuff at the end, and then any other questions. Feel free to take a break. We'll leave the door open and grab anything to drink if you'd like. So let's go back to, my navigation here. The left-hand side, I'm gonna click on quizzes. And I'm gonna start a brand new quiz. Top right-hand side, the gold button again. So so here you're gonna notice you have a couple of tabs here. I have the details of my quiz, and then I have my quiz questions. So I'm gonna start with the details of my quiz. I name my quiz. And then I have my instruction area here again, and then I have some different options. So the quiz type, I can do a couple of different things. A practice quiz, which is not graded, and just a regular graded quiz, a graded survey, or an ungraded survey. If you wanted to just try and get the pulse of students and kind of see, how things are going in the middle semester, you could use like a survey function here. So I'm gonna leave this as a graded quiz. So you have the option to shuffle answers now on multiple choice questions. You can add a time limit. You can allow multiple attempts, and then within those multiple attempts, would you like to keep the highest score or the most recent one, or maybe the average? And then you can also say how many attempts they can actually have. I'll leave those unchecked right now. So this one gets kind of confusing. So let students see their quiz responses. So you can let students do that, and then you have these options then for only showing them one time after each attempt, or letting them see the correct answers at a certain time and date. I have the option, yes.
How would you make it so they can see the answers only after they've submitted all their attempts?
So,
And the question was, how do you let them see their answers after they've submitted the result or the quiz?
or submitted,
Like if they have multiple attempts, they attempted like twice, they can only see the correct answers after they've submitted all of their attempts.
So they can only see it after they've submitted
after
everything.
their attempts. So I would probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would probably set this that showing the correct answers. I would show the correct answers after the due date of the quiz.
So let's
say I don't have a due date yet. Let's put our due date for my quiz as next Thursday. I'm going to show my correct answers. Maybe I'll do it at, and I can do it at like 12:01 a.m. on the next day. So when that's done, once the quiz due date has now come, then I can show the correct answers. That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, what's important is you want to make sure that if the intention of the quiz is to gauge a student's response, and then after they've submitted everything, the due date, and they can't do it again, you want to show them the response, that's what you want to do it. Some faculty will have it as, I will show you the correct answer immediately after you've done it. So that's why this exists, where you can actually show it to them every time they take it. And so that's if you're wanting to use the quiz to kind of be a flashcard where they can take it multiple times, they can do it as they want. You can also go back to the very top and say, I only want to have them 30 minutes to take the quiz, which means, and they have 2 attempts. You still have 30 minutes for the 2 attempts. No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You have 30 minutes for each attempt. But at the second attempt, they can see the results. And so you kind of have to figure out, what's the intent of the quiz? Is it okay for them to see it immediately? Or do you want to wait till all the grades are in, they're not sharing the answers with their other students? And that's where you can go through and say, all right, all the scores are in, now I'll show it to you. A lot of faculty, when they decide to show it after date, they then close it off pretty quickly of when those answers go away. That way they're not constantly looking back on it. And it gives you the option to choose anything in between.
So you can set the date for when the answers are hidden, and a number of reasons you might do that, but one might be you want them to be able to see those correct answers and learn from the quiz, but you don't want those answers to be visible maybe when they're taking the final, right? So maybe down the road these questions might show up again, and we don't want them to be able to just go back to the quiz and see what those answers were. Yeah.
If we're giving an extension to somebody for a quiz, so if the quiz is due on the 30th for everyone else, but for like one student it's due a couple days later, would we need to just set the correct answers to be after they take their quiz, or is there a way to change that just for them?
That's a really good question. So you can't change, you won't be able, so the question is, when the student has the extension, can you change when they see their answers? So
Yes.
yeah, so that student won't be able to see their answers until, like, they'll kind of have those different dates and the different due date. But I think the tricky part is, though, that the other students who have been able to see their answers previously would be able to share that with that student. So what I might do, if you do have,
So like so just for that student, if I set the answers to be shown at 12:01 on January 31st, but they're not due until for that student until
right, exactly.
They wouldn't be shown the answers, but then other students.
Exactly. So it doesn't, right, so the answers showing up doesn't really change for everyone else. That's a good question, though. I don't know if I don't know if Kate here would be able to see her answers
On January 31st.
right, especially if I hidden them. Let's say I hide them, a couple days before her due date is. I don't know that she'd be able to see those answers.
The way I would handle the situation is, so once everything's put in on here and you give everyone one attempt to do it, you can do what's on here. It's called moderate quiz, and give someone an additional attempt or more time to take it. So if you have someone who's like, wasn't feeling well, I'm messed up, and you say, okay, fine, we can take it again. You can actually save this quiz, and then up in the top corner, it'll give what needs to be published first.
Oh, thank you.
You'll have the option to moderate quiz. And so this allows you to find the exact student and say, all right, they get an extra attempt, or let's go through and give them more time. And to do that, all you have to do is hit the pencil for the student that you're wanting.
Sorry, right-hand side here.
And that's where you can give them multiple attempts and time. Now, that doesn't change when they see the answers. So if you have a date range, they still have to have an attempt in order to see their answers, whether that was right or wrong. But if they take this after the date range of when they show the answers, they won't see their correct response because it was after that time. But as you'll notice on here, it doesn't change the due date. It just changes the attempt. And so that's just giving them the extra time. And so that's where, if you really wanted to protect it, and that's kind of one of those things on the door, if you have questions, let us know, and we can kind of walk you through those, because there's so many different ways to do it. We can find out the best way for you.
So I think, just in the interest of time, so I'm going to go back to the quiz, and are there any, you can really play around with this question type. So the questions are on this next tab over, and you can add a new question here. You can do a new question group. A group is when, let's say you had 3 different questions and they only need to answer one of them. So that's, your group is that set of 3. But play around with, adding different question types. So you have the drop down here for all the different kinds that you can do. The thing with quizzes, make sure at the very, very bottom, so I'm here writing my question, make sure you update the question. It doesn't really have, and then you have this, also the save button. There's almost like these 2 different places that you want to make sure you're saving your work when you're in quizzes. Any specific questions on quizzes? Yeah.
I have a few actually. So when you are those quizzes self-grading? Are the multiple choice quizzes self-grading?
Yes, self-grading. So all but everything except for like well, just let me go back again. So yes, the quiz can be self-graded except for like open-ended questions. So we have, here we go. The only ones that would not be self-graded are essay questions, file uploads, and I think that's it. Our formulas automatically graded, Braden. So
Yeah, so what gets interesting with formula is just because someone puts a formula and it gives you the grade doesn't mean you might have to go back in there and overwrite it. And so what you actually can do with quizzes is use SpeedGrader to see what every student has answered, and then you can also change the point values or even fudge the numbers for that quiz. Where I see this a lot is once you make a quiz public and your students are taking it, you do not want to change the questions of the quiz, because then the students who've already taken the quiz won't see those new questions, but they already got a score. And so if you have a score of 30, then you add 10 more questions, they automatically lost 10 points because all of a sudden you added more questions. But you can go back in SpeedGrader and if you wanted to, override the score. So if your faculty says, well, I really have a quiz that I have a question and then just wasn't right, and you want to give everyone that point for right, you could go into SpeedGrader, see who got that question wrong, and give them that point for that question. And that looks just as all the other assignments where you can go in and do that. When you're wanting to grade an essay question or upload file, the way you'll see that is by SpeedGrader. And so that's when you can go on there and select that score. And it looks just as before as the assignment. It just shows each of the quiz questions there.
one more. Did you have another one?
Well, I can also stay with it later if possible. Can you have like 10 questions and have the system choose just 5 out of the 10 in addition to being randomized?
Oh, have the system choose,
Yeah,
like
randomize
randomize
5 out of 10.
the questions and not the answer. Yes.
So the way you have to do that, and if we back up to, actually I think it's saved that question there. What you're using is you're going to use question banks, and that gets a little bit more complicated, and I don't really have time to go through and do all of that. But what you can do on there, see on the bottom it says new question group. I'm going to edit again. So I have the ability to choose an individual question, or I have an ability to choose a question group. Now what's confusing, the way you build your question group is if you scroll up to the very ... at the top of that screen. No, it's not there. If you go back to the quiz, that's where it's at. So you actually have to build your question groups outside of the quiz. So if you go back to just where the quiz section is, where all of your quizzes sit.
Yeah.
So just a tab on the navigation.
Oh. You mean with all of the quizzes there? Okay.
So the way you create a quiz bank is going on this ... right here, and it creates a question group for your entire course. And then when you're building out your, right there.
Manage question.
So that way when you're building out your quiz, you're selecting one of these banks to use, and then you'll say, I want 2 questions out of this bank. Now, if you have 3 questions in the bank, it'll randomize the order these questions are done. And so this gets really more complicated. And I would say that if you're wanting to do this, there is a support guide that will show you where you can get each step by step on how to do this. But it starts first with creating the quiz bank for the course. and then going into the quiz and selecting which one and choosing the number of orders that you're wanting to do.
You can have one bank per chapter.
Yeah, you can have as many banks as you want, and then you can collect it. And so what some faculty will do is they'll create a bank for each chapter, and then for the practice quizzes, they'll pick out 2 questions there. Then for the final, they'll use those same banks, but then pick more. And it's all in a random order that they pick and choose.
There's a question back here. Do you still have a question?
How do we get that?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and say that because this is the best part. If at any time you need help, 24/7, anywhere in the world, I can click on this help icon right over here. And if you need help, there's this chat box that you can use. It says chat with Canvas support. Students or faculty, doesn't matter. You can click on there and ask them. It'll start a chat with Canvas pros and say, how do I do question banks? They will send you a guide on how to do that. Or what you can do is go back to that help icon, and there's this option over here saying search Canvas guides. I can go there and it'll take me to the Canvas support website, which lets you decide, are you a student, instructor, or admin? And you can scroll down, scroll down a little bit more. And I'm sorry, it's Canvas guides.
Canvas guides. You can also just search for a topic.
Or do that. Oh, they changed it. Okay, there it is. So instructor guide, student guide, admin. So that you can see a step-by-step on how to do this. So if you wanted to just search on there or search over here and say, I want to find out everything about grades, it'll show you a step-by-step guide on how to do every single thing in the gradebook. And this is available 24/7, but the best feature is the chat box because you'll have someone who knows, and they are available 24/7.
Super fast. And just a couple minutes, and they'll send you guides or they'll walk you through things too. So we use them a lot too.
If you're doing a question that is like fill in the blank and self-grading, is it spelling?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the questions about the fill in the blank. So when you, it is self-graded, automatically graded. The accuracy of it depends on you. So you can put in a whole bunch of different choices that would be counted as correct. Capitalization is not counted in there anywhere, but you might, if like, something that would still be counted as correct. You can put things in like that too. And that's where it is helpful to then go back into, if you have quizzes like that, going back into SpeedGrader, and you can see what everyone's put in. And so you could go through and see a question that was marked wrong, and you see like, oh, they just misspelled it, and you can just change the that point right there. But yeah, good question.
And this is my evil side, but you also can put in the assignment prompt. Correct spelling is important. Make sure you spell it correctly. Grades will not be changed later. Because if you have that, let's say you have 100 students, and then each student, you have one student who misspells 5 of the questions. He's like, I missed 5 questions, and that happens to 30 students. That's a lot of work for you. And so if you see that, put that prompt in there, put it in the assignment prompt saying, important, take your time, spell things correctly, especially if you use big biology words. Because I would spell them all wrong, but if I know it has to be correct, I'll double check it before I submit it.
So let's go back. I'm going to go, let's see. Let's see. Here we go. I wanted to just point out, so did all of you get an email earlier today from me with, okay, so check your email. I have the slides here. What I also have on the end of this slide is exactly what Brady was just talking about, our support resources. So the chatting with Canvas, calling our help desk as well if Canvas itself is not able to help you, and they might direct you back to us depending on what the question is. And of course those guides, which is really helpful. Another thing I wanted to point out is you guys can all, well, first of all, you can take any of our trainings. As a TA, as teaching staff, you're welcome to take any of our trainings at any time. We have a lot, especially in the beginning of the semester. Something I wanted to point out though are these self-paced courses, and I just highlighted 6 of them that might be helpful for you specifically. we sort of took this training and have it as we have like a TA guide, sort of these basic Canvas essentials and how to do different things. And then some other topics as well that might be helpful. And you can, if you're from the email I sent you today, you can just open up this PDF from the slides and get to those courses and register on our website. So you'll be able to go into all of these different topics and then just register for them, and they're all in Canvas. And then the other thing is, just because we kind of ran out of time, Zoom for doing any web conferencing with students. We have kind of the login here. You just use your your CU Denver email login to use Zoom, and you have to go to this specific address to get into our instance, and that kind of gives you more features and can do more with students through the university instance of it. And then also TechSmith Relay. If you're doing videos and adding videos, this is a really fun thing to play around with. It's like an online video hosting site that we have the university license for. So if you go to this link and then use your CU Denver login, you'll be able to not only add videos, say from YouTube, or upload your own, create your own, but you have the quizzing in the video that would that you can use. And so you could add a quiz that kind of pops up right in the middle of the video. It pauses the video, pulls up a quiz. You also have then student analytics view, so you can see each student and how much they've watched of the video, and if they've watched the whole thing or just a partial amount. So it's nice. It's a nice alternative to using YouTube. It is totally web-based, and you can integrate it right into Canvas, and just contact our support office, and we can walk you through it or sit down with one of you guys. So if that's what you'd like. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't publish anything. The students aren't going to see it, right?
If it's unpublished, students will not see it, correct?
Yeah, your instructor still would too. Are you the instructor?
I'm the TA, but
Okay.
I was playing around in the course. I didn't publish anything, but I just got a bunch of notifications that it was.
Oh, okay.
But the students won't see that, right?
As long as it's unpublished, students will
They
not
won't.
see it or see it in the grade book or any of that.
Yeah.
I didn't tell Sarah this because I'm evil genius. We have recorded the session.
Oh, geez.
So in the follow-up email that you guys will get tomorrow will be a link to the recording of this. So if you want to rewatch it, that will be available for you as well.
Do you have a question? You're good? Okay. Yeah. No, it's okay.
The first question is probably easier is how can you keep the best 8 out of 10?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
keeping the best 8. So if they have
Keeping the best
multiple
8 out of 10.
attempts.
They do 10 quizzes and keep just the best 10 grades.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that's actually going to be back in
Assignment groups. So that's where the fun part gets there. In the gradebook, and Sarah pulls this up, you can create assignment groups. And essentially what assignment groups allows you to do is say, all right, all of the quizzes in this group is going to be worth 50% of my final grade. And within that group, I can then say, drop the 2 lowest grades. And so that's where you have the ability to set the overall grades for your assignments. So everything equals 100%. Make sure you hit 100, because it's going to be weird if you say 60% and they're like, where did my 40% go? All I have to do is add a new group. By default, everything is going to be placed into the assignment group. But once you have more than one group, you can then say this is worth 50%, the other one's worth 50%. And then on each group, I can go through and say, drop the lowest score, drop the highest score, pick one that not count, and we'll see all those different options.
And you're going to just drag and drop. So if anyone missed that, so I went to assignments from the left-hand side. On the right-hand top corner, then I have an option to add a new group. That new group was added way down here at the bottom. And then, so it's empty right now, but what I can do is just drag assignments down into that group. So I'm going to drag some different things down in there. And in assignments, what I showed you before was like, turning a paper. This view of assignments from that navigation here assignments, discussions, and quizzes. So not to get confusing, but of how they're using assignments, but this includes all the quizzes in here. So you would maybe make your quiz group here and then drag all of your quizzes down into that group. So then these, on the left-hand side here, on these 3 little dots, no, that's not it.
I think you have to start at the top.
At the top. Okay, just kidding. So the 3 little dots at the very top, assignment groups weight. No, that's not it either.
You have to do this first.
You
and
weight
then
it.
you
Okay.
hit edit and do it.
So
it's the
our
first step
test
of,
group.
You want to add up to 100% here.
And once it equals 100%, or if you want to use, weird math and not add it up to 100%. So this is the first step. You want to assign this. And then if you go back to each of those assignment groups, you have the option to change those.
So then, if, let's say that the questions are worth 45 points, that 45 points automatically calculated 35%. I want that starting on the
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's under edit. Yeah. So now I could say I want number of scores. Yeah. To ignore. So you could ignore the 2 lowest ones.
And if you want to be mean, you can ignore 2 highest scores too. Or you can go on here and say, I want to ignore except this one here, which has to be in there.
Right. So I could, yeah, I want to take the lowest scores, but I never want to drop, say, that quiz right there. That one's it's kind of like a keeper, the final one or something. So then we're going to go ahead and save.
And so really we're doing 2 things here. One is we're creating weighted assignments for the overall grade, and then we're creating a rule on that assignment group of drop these lowest. You can go and do the same thing and say assignment group 1, we're worth 100%, and then do the same thing here. But it's going to choose from finals, quizzes, and all that back and forth, so you might lose something really important. And so that's why you want to break it down into groups.
Right. Good. Helpful. So good. So let us know. You have all. We'll send out a follow-up email with all of this as well. But all the support contact for us for Canvas. Just let us know if you have any other questions. And then again, feel free to come to any of our trainings and tell your instructors about it too. You're welcome to join us.
Yep. And most importantly, don't feel like you have to know everything now. Just kind of take it one step at a time. Get more confidence later. But know that you always have help, and they'll be able to answer it really fast.
Thank you so much. From you directly?
Yes. Yeah. It would have come from Sarah North. I think I got everyone in there.